The model you see here diagrams how our brains process and store information absorbed from the world around us. Though the stages don't actually look like clipboards and tables in our minds, each drawing matches the function of the stage they represent, and thus create a metaphor that enhances our understanding of what happens at each stage. From this basic model, we can learn 3 things about how we learn. The material we attach sense and meaning to and put into long-term storage has a memory from our past associated with it. Information that doesn't have an attached memory is filtered out through the sensory register and the short-term memory systems. In order to retain the information we learn in class, we need to create some sort of immediate connection with it in order to store the item in long-term storage. Our mindsets are shaped by our past experiences as well. Whether we have a growth mindset and are excited by new tasks, or have a fixed mindset and shy away from the unfamiliar, is determined by our corresponding positive or negative learning experiences. If we repeatedly fail chemistry tests, for example, we begin to see ourselves as being bad at chemistry and block out the incoming chemistry-related data. Thus, to live up to our full potentials, we cannot be afraid of failure. Rather, we need to see subjects we struggle with as a challenge that will require effort but where success is possible. Realizing we can thrive in all subject areas will not only make us better all-around students, but will also expand the scope of our learning as we feel comfortable enough to explore beyond our comfort zones. Finally, the capacity of the working memory, the area where we attach sense and meaning to new learning and rework old learning, is limited. Thus, when we stuff in too much information, like when we cram for tests, most of the data is filtered out. Remember the table analogy we saw on the first slide? Like the working memory, a table can only hold a certain number of things before objects start to fall off. The best way to study, therefore, is to connect the material to past experience. It's this connection that attaches sense or meaning to the data and puts it into long-term storage for us to use later. Even after taking a test, we need to review and practice applying the learned material in order to remember it. Without practice, we cannot retain the information, and the neurons that previously formed the memory of the learning will decay. To sustain these neural pathways, we need to continually rehearse the learning by reprocessing information in the working memory. This process is crucial to retaining knowledge, and the more time you put into rehearsal, the better you will remember the concept. When learning episodes are recalled periodically, they keep their attached meaning, thus ensuring that the episode will be stored in long-term memory in such a way that it can be easily recalled and applied in the future. The best rehearsal of learning, therefore, occurs over time, not in one short cram session. Chunking occurs when the working memory stores a series of new input items as a single shared memory. As Sousa writes, chunking allows us to deal with a few large blocks of information rather than many small fragments. Thus, though the word information is made up of 11 letters, we see it as one word because our brains have chunked the individual pieces together. However, the real advantage of chunking comes when we can make sense and meaning of the patterns we process in the working memory. When we can associate chunked information with past experiences, we increase the amount of information our working memories can process at one time. Because this allows us to remember more information, our knowledge of the subjects we stored in chunks as opposed to isolated facts increases. Meanwhile, as our expertise grows, so too does our ability to chunk relevant information and link incoming data to previously acquired material. One of the great parts of the chunking strategy is that everyone can learn to do it, given some practice plus some guidance from teachers. While we've talked about storing information, we haven't yet talked about how to retrieve information and put it back into working memory. In storing memories, we tend to organize our thoughts by their corresponding similarities. For example, our long-term memory might store dolphins and wolves in the same area because they are both mammals. However, in retrieving memories, we distinguish each learning episode by their unique attributes. Therefore, the working memory could separate dolphins and wolves based on whether they live on land or in the ocean. When we process a new concept, we need to identify not only how things are similar to what we already know, but also how they are different. This will make it easier for us to remember and retrieve what we put into long-term storage, as well as to make connections to learning we will encounter in the future. Remember, being able to apply previously acquired information to future situations is the overall goal of education. Our brains have two hemispheres. The left side is the logical half and recognizes words, letters, and numbers. The right side processes the whole picture. While the corpus callosum allows the separate halves to share data, most of us still favor one hemisphere. Individuals that are more oriented to their right hemispheres are more artistically, mathematically, and visually inclined. Conversely, left hemisphere individuals are stronger verbally and analytically and are better problem solvers. Though this information should not be used to limit ourselves to subjects that fall only within our range of hemispheric ability, we can use this knowledge to identify our strengths as learners. Understanding our learning style will show us what we need to do in order to comprehend and remember classroom material. Reading is the most difficult task teachers ask their students to learn. Unlike speech, there is no single area in the brain that processes written language. In addition, we use seemingly meaningless symbols to represent words we would normally hear and understand. Included in this difficulty is the number of skills we have to master in order to be fluent readers. Learning vocabulary and grammar isn't enough, and at the same time that we decode the language, we still have to understand how all the parts come together. Reading is a real challenge for many people. However, we can improve our reading ability by practicing at home and away from the environment of school. Get your parents to read to you, or have a pleasure book that you can pick up whenever you get bored at home. It may seem as though this is a simple solution, but practice, as discussed earlier, increases retention of subjects and acquired skills, and therefore is the key to our success. In today's schools, gym comes second to courses like math and science. However, recent studies show that movement actually increases our capacity to learn. The cerebellum, which mainly focuses on coordinating motor skills, has been found to influence the same parts of the brain that are active during learning episodes. Movement and learning, therefore, are linked, and even short periods of exercise have been seen to improve our brain power. While teachers should get us up and out of our desks during the school day, it's up to us to do something after school besides watch TV or play computer games. After a long day at school, watching TV may be what we really want to do, but getting up and moving around is of more benefit to us in the long run. Exercising before a test is also a good idea. Though knowing the actual taxonomy isn't what's important for students to know, understanding how to move up the levels of learning is what we should focus on. There are two types of thinking: convergent low-order thinking and divergent high-order thinking. In learning, we should strive to be high-order thinkers, critical thinkers who can analyze patterns and incorporate our own views in order to, eventually, use our knowledge to create something new. Thus, Bloom's taxonomy pulls together all of our brain's abilities. Not only do we have to recall the information, but we also have to use it in conjunction with past learning and our own experiences. In following the hierarchy, we will eventually become the thoughtful and curious students we strive to be, and learn to use our brain's capabilities to form a deeper understanding of subject matter.